This is Bernie Wall. As you know, I'm an IELTS trainer, and if you haven't met me before, then I specialise in working with students who need band 7 and 8 in their IELTS. And one of the things I get asked a lot is about IELTS reading. It seems to be one of the areas that a lot of people are challenged by. And fairly recently, just a few weeks ago, I had a comment from a student who said, "Reading is my nightmare." And I think that's quite sad. I personally love the reading. I like teaching it. I like doing the passages. And I know other students who feel the same way. But I also realize that for a lot of people, reading may be their nightmare. And so what I want to do in this video is to try and change your focus on the reading and give you some ways in which you can use the reading to improve your skills generally. And perhaps with a slight change of approach, you may find it less of a nightmare, and that should really then lead to you getting higher scores. So if you can relax a little bit more around the reading and not be so fearful of it, then I'm pretty sure this will help you to see the wood for the trees and improve your score. And I've had several students that have come to me with a little bit of anxiety around reading. And through some of these approaches that I'm going to show you, we've managed to turn that around. And in the end, they've ended up with quite high scores in reading. And that fear and anxiety around reading has gone forever. So, as ever, I have a short presentation that I'm going to go through with you. But if reading is something that you are challenged by or you are concerned about, then this video is definitely for you, and have a look at how you might be able to turn this around and start to improve your score and your skills. So I'll just get the the presentation up. So if it is your nightmare, it really doesn't have to be. It won't happen overnight. You have to go step by step like you do with everything in IELTS and in language training generally. But if you change slightly how you view it, I think you'll find it a lot easier to tackle and to deal with. So let's have a look, excuse me, at some reasons why I think that the reading is not a nightmare, but is quite an enjoyable thing to do. So, whether you'd love it, I don't know, but hopefully you might like it. I think the topics are interesting, most of them. Some can be a little bit more difficult than others, but they're going to be interesting to somebody because there's a very wide range of topics. And certainly you'll be able to find one that resonates with you, either out of curiosity or because it's related to your field. I think it's quite an exciting quest to look at the questions and then go into the text and search out the answers. It's a little bit like a treasure hunt, and that makes it a fun thing to do. I like matching keywords. I'm very fond of crosswords, and I like to do crossword puzzles very regularly. And that often is an exercise in matching keywords with other words, so synonyms, and it can be an interesting and fun activity. It is very satisfying if you go into the passage and you're looking and suddenly the answer is there right in front of your eyes. And this should happen to you most of the time if your techniques are good. So think about the positives when you find that answer because of the technique you have, then that will be satisfying to you. And the more satisfied you are, the more answers you should be getting. And it's also a great way to learn new vocabulary. The topics in the readings are often similar to the topics in the writing. So you can perhaps use some of that vocabulary in your writing. And also, a lot of the words are repeated in different reading texts. So if you learn some new words from one reading text, you may easily find those in another one. And finally, if you treat it like a series of puzzles, then I think you can be a little bit more light-hearted about it, and puzzles can be quite a fun thing to do. So let's go through these one by one, and I'll try and illustrate them a little bit more and hopefully persuade you to look at the IELTS reading in this way. So the topics, there's a very big range. Now, obviously in the exam, you have to do the topics you're given, but while you're practicing, you know, pick out topics that you like, topics that are going to be helpful to you because they'll give you some information about your job or your hobby, or topics that you are just interested in and would like to know a little bit more about. They're not for experts, they're not written for experts, so everybody should be able to access them and understand them without any specific technical knowledge of that topic. Some can be quite fascinating, and I think all of them in their own way are interesting. So, you know, it is quite a useful exercise to do and an interesting exercise to do. But you have to get beyond the exam thing. You have to think these are not the exam. It is not the exam. It is your preparation. And that preparation is not just about going through mock tests. That preparation should be about building your skills, building your vocabulary. So don't think every time you sit down and do a reading passage, it's an exam, because it isn't. And so you can look at it in a slightly different way. So sometimes, why not just read them to get some vocabulary or to get some specific sentence structures from them, and forget about the questions completely and just use them as a bank of vocabulary so you can learn 2 or 3 new words. So it's a different way of looking at it, but it's also going to be very useful to you. Okay, the quest to search out the answers. So you have a question, you analyze the question, you look at the keywords, and then you go with your keywords into the text, into the passage to find the answers. So here's an example of how that might work. It's a multiple choice. It's from one of the Cambridge books. So we look at the question, what is it that we need to find on this quest? Well, we need to find firstly what the writer's point is. The writer has made a point about something. And in order to put that point across, he uses this story or this illustration of the $1 Million Quartet as an example of his or her point. So we need to find out why this story underlines the writer's point. So what is the point that the story illustrates? The $1 Million Quartet is about a group of 4 singers, I think in the 40s, maybe 50s. And these are all very accomplished, talented singers, and they come together to form this quartet, 4 singers. Now, in the story, there is a 5th singer, and this 5th singer, I think it's Roy Orbison, I'm not sure, but he is a much more talented and accomplished singer than the 4 that are in the group. But he doesn't join the group, even though he's invited to. He doesn't join it because he doesn't share the same vision as the other 4 singers. So the writer's point is that if people do not share the same vision or share the same goal, then they may not be able to work as a team. And this is what happened with this story of the 5 singers. One of them could not get it, and so he didn't join the group. And that's why it's a good illustration of the writer's point. So the answer here is going to be C. So we learn through analysing the question what our quest, what our treasure hunt is going to be. Here's another one. This is the type of question where you have to locate information within a paragraph. And if you look at these types of questions, you'll see that there's usually a word like the ones I've highlighted in orange here. So this is an article about autumn leaves. And the first thing we need to find is a description of the substance that changes the colour of leaves to red. Now, it's quite possible that red colour is all over the passage. But what we're looking for specifically is how they become red, what causes them to become red. And not only that, but we need a description of what this substance is. I'm assuming it might be a chemical. I don't know at this point, but I think that's the kind of thing I'm going to be looking for. So when we start searching, we are looking for a description of a substance. And it's quite important that this description is what we find. The second one is a reason. Why do trees drop their leaves in autumn? What's the reason? What causes it? Now, that might be in the introduction. Personally, I would probably think the introduction is the best place to start. But it may not be. It might be in the conclusion, where there's a summary of all the findings. So there are two places to begin the quest, to begin the hunt. But if we don't find them there, then we'll have to look through some of the other paragraphs. And then finally, we're looking for evidence about a theory. Now, this theory may be in 2 paragraphs, it might even be in 3 paragraphs. Red leaves, as we know from the previous one, is probably in maybe every paragraph. So we can't rely on red leaves. So we need to find the evidence about the theory. So we find the theory and then we look for the evidence. And it's the evidence that will point us to the correct paragraph. So it's like a kind of treasure hunt, and that might make it seem a little bit more interesting. Okay, so the next point is the fun of matching keywords, which is rather like a crossword. And I've got a couple of examples of how this might work. So this is a true, false, not given. Mosquito eggs are capable of surviving in dry conditions. Now, I have seen a synonym for dry that I know in many IELTS passages, and that word is desiccated. So I'm thinking it might be the word desiccated that will help me to find this. So that's a synonym for desiccated. I've also seen a word viable, which I've seen in several passages in IELTS as a synonym for survive. So I'm going to keep in mind that they may be the synonyms that I'm looking for to find the answer to this question. And indeed, I find desiccated eggs, which means mosquito eggs in dry conditions. And I also find in the same sentence, remain viable, capable of surviving. So by anticipating what these synonyms might be, I'm able to find the answer quickly, and it's true. And you will find that a lot of these words come back again and again in the passages. So it's worth, as I mentioned before, using the reading for vocabulary, it's worth trying to memorize some of these words. Here's another example. Again, it's a true, false, not given. Animals which feed on mosquitoes may be adversely affected by global warming. I know that animals which feed on other animals are called predators. And predators is a word that comes up very, very often in IELTS if you have a passage about animals. So immediately I think predators is going to be there. Adversely affected, we need to find out what that is. So, and global warming. So I find in the passage this, this sentence. Climate change, global warming, reduces the populations of predators, animals which feed on, that normally keep mosquitoes in check. Reduces the populations, so presumably those populations have been adversely affected. I'm guessing some of them have died, and that is an adverse or bad effect. And so therefore I'm happy that this can be a true answer. So by understanding what synonyms work in these topics, you can much more quickly find the right place and then make your choice. And if you've done lots and lots of readings, you will see these words coming up again and again. Okay, answers popping out. I hope that the last two slides have shown you exactly how this can happen if you have a bit of understanding around the words and around exactly what you're looking for. And it's quite exciting when the right answer does pop out. However, if it doesn't, then there may be two main reasons why, and it's worth looking at that. So the first reason is you're in the wrong place. Did you check all the keywords? If you remember, when we talked about the autumn leaves was the title of the piece. So autumn and leaves are going to be all over the passage, probably more than once in every paragraph. Therefore, if you picked autumn as a keyword and jumped on the first autumn you found and then tried to squeeze that into the answer, you're not going to be very successful. You need what aspect of autumn? Is it the leaves? Is it the trees? Is it the time of year? Is it the month? You must have other keywords around autumn that are going to help you. So the thing is to go back to the question and gather another 2 or 3 keywords. I would say normally you need 3 keywords. It could be that you've missed something in the question, that there's a word in the question that you've missed out, and therefore the answer is not obvious to you. And that could be a small word like in the future, in the past, it might be only, it might be most. So again, go back to the question and see if you can find the word that you've missed. And once you get everything in place, then the answer should just pop out. So always go back to the question and see what you missed or see what you overlooked. I've said quite a bit about this already. Reading and writing are connected. The reading that you have in IELTS is academic and therefore similar to the writing, albeit the writing is much more simple, that you have to do in IELTS writing task 2. So it then makes sense that there will be vocabulary in the reading that you can use in the writing. And also, you are reading something that somebody else has written. And the kind of vocabulary, linking words that are there could be some that you might want to learn and use in your IELTS writing. Students often ask about new vocabulary. How can I learn new vocabulary? How can I find new vocabulary? How can I find linking words, etc., etc.? They're right in front of you in the reading. So it's easy to pick a reading, go through it, find some words you don't know, especially if it's about a topic that you know you might get in the writing. Environment, you find it in the reading passages. It's often in the writing. Education, you find it in reading. You also get it in writing. The same with health. The same with lots of other things, pollution, travel, all of these things can be in both reading and writing. So it's a really good way to learn new vocabulary and new structures. So topic-based, yes, we've mentioned that, but also some general academic vocabulary. So there may be some verbs that you can use, there may be some linking words that you could pick, and there will be some sentence structures that you can use. So it's a really good place to extend and expand your vocabulary and sentence structure. And use your dictionary. This is not the exam. If there are words you don't know, use your dictionary and then remember those words if they're going to be useful. The only way you can improve skills is by expanding and developing them. If you just do mock tests, it's not going to affect your skills. It's just going to give you an answer. And that answer may be good or it may be depressing. But if you want to improve your skills, you have to do these things. It's not the exam. And finally, puzzles. These are all kinds of puzzles. So this is like a quiz. This is like a crossword. This is like another kind of quiz. True or false again. Every day on the television, you see these quiz programs. They are hugely popular. completing sentences with the correct words, another type of quiz. They're all word puzzles. And people spend a lot of time watching word puzzles, enjoying them, buying books of puzzles, doing them online. Maybe you do it yourself. But these are all kinds of word puzzles. Hundreds of people do these every day just for fun. So why not look at the reading questions like a series of word puzzles and just have a bit of fun with them. I hope this has explained a little bit why I feel if you change your view of the reading, you may be able to turn around your score. Anyway, I have written an article about this with a little bit more information. You can find that on my website, IELTSlearningtips.com, where you can also find some free resources and lots of other articles on these topics of IELTS Band 7 and 8. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.